Why didn't Hitler destroy Paris in World War II? In 1944, as the Allies closed in, Hitler gave a brutal order: reduce Paris to rubble, bridges, monuments, even the Eiffel Tower. But the German commander in Paris, General von Choltitz, refused. He knew resistance forces had weakened German control, and destroying the city would have been impossible and unforgivable. Despite pressure from Hitler, he surrendered Paris on August 25th, saving the city from destruction. Why wasn't London invaded during World War II? Because Britain turned the sky into a fortress. In 1940, Hitler planned to invade, but only if Germany controlled the air. So the Battle of Britain began. Wave after wave of German bombers came, and the RAF shot them down. Germany lost nearly 2,000 aircraft in just a few months. Without air dominance, an invasion was suicide. So Hitler gave up, and London was spared. Ever wondered why the US didn't drop the atomic bomb on a major city like Tokyo? Turns out it wasn't random. The US specifically avoided already bombed cities. Why? Because they wanted to test the bomb's full impact on untouched targets. That's why Hiroshima was hit first on August 6, 1945. Kyoto was next on the list, but spared for its cultural value. 3 days later, on August 9th, the second bomb was meant for a different city. But bad weather changed the target last minute. That's how Nagasaki became history's deadliest backup plan. Why didn't Ireland fight in World War II? In 1939, as Europe plunged into chaos, Ireland stayed neutral. Fresh off its independence from Britain, joining the war, especially on the British side, was politically toxic. But neutrality didn't mean silence. Ireland shared intel with the Allies, let downed pilots go home, and even gave secret support during D-Day. Still, when the war ended, Ireland shocked the world by offering condolences to Germany. Why did Italy get called the betrayer after both world wars? In World War II, Italy fought alongside Nazi Germany until 1943. After failing in Greece and North Africa, they turned on Mussolini, arrested him, and surrendered to the Allies. But this wasn't the first time. In World War I, Italy was actually allied with Germany and Austria-Hungary. But when war broke out, Italy stayed neutral, saying the alliance was only for defense. Then in 1915, Italy switched sides, joining the Allies in exchange for land. Austria-Hungary called it the Great Betrayal. And after World War II, the nickname stuck. Why did Japan think it could beat the US in World War II? By 1941, Japan was bogged down in China and heavily dependent on American oil. When they moved into French Indochina, Washington froze their assets and cut off 94% of their fuel, leaving only months of reserves. Faced with losing their empire or seizing Southeast Asia's oil, Tokyo gambled. But hitting those colonies risked war with America. So instead, they struck Pearl Harbor, hoping to scare the US into peace. Instead, it did the exact opposite. Why did Turkey stay neutral in World War II? Joining either side risked opening a new front, the Allies into the Balkans or the Axis into the Middle East. Turkey feared Soviet control of the Turkish Straits. They had close ties with Germany, but also a pact with Britain and France. When France fell, Turkey used an escape clause to stay out. In 1941, Turkey signed a non-aggression pact with Germany, happy to see the Soviets weakened. But after Stalingrad, they leaned toward the Allies. They cut trade with Germany in 1944, finally declaring war in February 1945, when it was nearly over. Why didn't anyone help Finland when the Soviets invaded in 1939? Truth is, everyone was tied up in their own World War II chaos. Sending troops meant crossing neutral Sweden, or Nazi-free Norway at the time, which wasn't happening. Britain and France talked about sending aid, but their real goal was controlling Swedish iron, not saving Finland. The US could only offer moral support and old weapons because of neutrality laws. And Germany? Hitler had just signed a pact with Stalin and didn't want to rock the boat. Germany didn't control Norway yet, and the Winter War ended before anyone even invaded Scandinavia. Finland was basically left to fend for itself. Did you know World War II didn't really end for Indonesia in 1945? After Japan surrendered, Indonesia declared independence. But the Dutch came back, trying to take their colony back by force. What followed was a brutal 4-year war. Dutch tanks, planes, and troops versus Indonesian guerrillas, ambushes, and resistance networks. Entire towns became war zones. But Indonesia never backed down. By 1949, after global pressure and heavy losses, the Dutch finally gave up, and Indonesia was free. Why didn't the Nazis destroy Rome during World War II? First, Rome was the capital of Nazi Germany's closest ally, Italy. Wiping it out would have turned Italian nationalists against them. Plus, right in the middle of the city was Vatican City. The Pope stayed neutral and pleaded with the Allies to protect historic sites. But Rome didn't escape the war. Bombs fell, battles were fought, but the city itself was never erased. It survived, thanks to diplomacy, religion, and a bit of luck. How did the Allies trick Hitler before D-Day? With one of the boldest deceptions in military history, Operation Fortitude. They built a fake army, led by a fake general, George Patton, and placed it across from Pas de Calais, not Normandy. They used inflatable tanks, dummy landing craft, and fake radio signals to make it look real. Hitler fell for it, and held his best troops in the wrong place. So when the real invasion hit Normandy, the Nazis were totally unprepared. And that fake army helped change the course of the war. Why did Afghanistan stay neutral in World War II? In 1933, 19-year-old King Zahir Shah took the throne, but real power lay with his uncle, Prime Minister Hashim Khan. Afghanistan had strong ties with Nazi Germany, loans, engineers, even envoys who met Hitler. Britain, meanwhile, feared German influence on its Indian frontier. When war broke out, some in Kabul admired Hitler, and religious leaders called for jihad against the British. But Hashim Khan knew the risk. Siding with Germany could mean invasion by the Soviets in the north and the British in the south. So he played it carefully, balancing both sides until 1941, when he expelled Axis agents under Allied pressure. Why was Portugal neutral in World War II? They had a centuries-old alliance with Britain, the Treaty of Windsor from 1387, but it didn't force them to fight. Britain respected Portugal's choice to stay out. Prime Minister Salazar, who had seen how World War I devastated Portugal's economy, was determined to avoid the same fate. Neutrality let Portugal trade important materials like tungsten with both sides. Portugal also signed a non-aggression pact with Franco's Spain to keep the Iberian Peninsula safe and avoid invasion. By 1940, Portugal leaned toward the Allies, hosting Gibraltar refugees on Madeira and letting Allied ships use Azores air bases, but never officially entered the war. Not gonna lie, this comment had me laughing for a while, bro. Why did Italy struggle so badly in World War II? In 1940, Mussolini joined the war late, thinking it'd be easy land grabs while Germany did the hard work. But Italy's military was in no shape to fight. Rusty tanks, old weapons, and barely any fuel to move. They failed in Greece, got crushed in Egypt, and Germany had to clean up every mess. Hitler started seeing Mussolini as dead weight. By 1943, Italy was in ruins. The king removed Mussolini, and Italy flipped sides to fight the Nazis. Why did Romania switch sides in World War II? By August 1944, Germany was collapsing. D-Day opened a Western front. Italy was lost, and the Soviets were smashing through the east. Romania, ruled by Marshal Antonescu, had already lost huge numbers fighting for Hitler. On August 23, 1944, King Michael staged a daring coup. He arrested Antonescu, switched sides, and ordered Romanian troops to fight Germany instead of the USSR. Hitler was stunned. Within weeks, over 370,000 German soldiers were cut off in the Balkans, and Romania's oil fields, vital for the Nazi war machine, were lost. That single decision helped shorten the war, but it also sealed Romania's fate under Soviet control after 1945. Iceland stayed neutral in World War II, but its neutrality came with a twist. In the 1930s, Iceland was technically independent, but still under Denmark. Denmark handled defense and foreign policy, including Iceland's protection. When Germany invaded Denmark in April 1940, Iceland was cut adrift. Any German attack would have been risky, so Iceland remained untouched, at least for a month. Then, British troops landed without resistance. Icelanders were mostly indifferent, happy to trade with the soldiers, while the British respected Icelandic self-rule. By 1941, US forces replaced the British, building roads, ports, airports, and electricity. The economy boomed. World War II reshaped Iceland, bringing jobs, infrastructure, and independence. The Blessed War.